Good evening. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the WPCA and the regular town council meeting of North Branford. It is Tuesday, April 22nd at 6:35. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Angeloni.
Here.
Deputy Mayor McMillan.
Present.
Counselor Abelson. Counselor Abelson.
Here.
Counselor Diamond.
Here.
Counselor Goad.
Here.
Counselor Miller.
Here.
Counselor Palladino.
Here.
Counselor Palicia.
Here.
And Counselor Zampano.
Here.
Okay. So we're just going to go through some housekeeping items real quick, and then we have some community presentations. So first item on the agenda is minutes of previous meetings. Do I hear a motion to approve the March 11th, 2025 budget workshop?
Motion.
Second. Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. The next one is minutes of the March 18th, 2025 WPCA and Town Council meeting.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Diamond. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. The next item is minutes from the March 25th, 2025 budget workshop. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Diamond. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Next item is minutes of the April 1st, 2025 budget hearing. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second. Motion made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Diamond. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Next is minutes from April 8th, 2025
Motion.
budget workshop.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Miller, second by Deputy Mayor McMillan. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
I abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. The next is minutes of the April 10th, 2025 budget workshop. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Diamond. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Water Pollution Control Authority, there is no business for action or discussion tonight, so we are on to the regular town council meeting. First community event and presentation tonight is a proclamation for Earth Day. I'll just read it quickly here. Earth Day. Whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22nd, 1970 with the goal of inspiring environmental awareness and encouraging the conservation, protection, and appreciation of our nation's natural resources. And whereas it is the responsibility of each of us to safeguard the environment by recognizing that all human life depends upon the earth and upon one another for our mutual existence, well-being, and development. And whereas the steps we take to protect and preserve our natural environment through education, partnerships, and positive actions should be encouraged in the town of North Branford. And whereas the citizens of the town of North Branford are committed not only to the protection and preservation of our environment, but also to the restoration of ecosystems and habitat. And whereas the town of North Branford, citizens, staff, and elected officials are working closely with federal, state, and local governments and with non-governmental organizations to develop and implement regulations and ordinances specifically designed to preserve and improve the town of North Branford's fragile ecosystems and the quality of life therein. And whereas the town of North Branford proudly recognizes all who participate in Earth Day, for their dedication to taking a proactive role in shaping the future of our environment and in protecting the town of North Branford's precious natural resources. Now therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of North Branford, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2025 as Earth Day in the Town of North Branford and urge all our citizens to be mindful of local, state, and national laws which protect our environment and to join in efforts to preserve the beauty of wonder of the lands, skies, and water of the earth in all its diversity. And I am going to present this to Bill Savastano.
Thank you. It's Bill Savastano representing the Recycle Committee. Thanks for all the efforts from town people, residents, and that have supported the committee. This Saturday, we'll have our Little League opening day. We do our event with them because we have a captured crowd that day. Again, I want to thank everybody for participating. We'll have our usual exhibits. We'll have sunflower giveaways. We just made up 120 trays today. Weather's going to be a little concerned, but we follow the lead of Little League in that respect. But one last thing, I won't bore you with too much. But this year, because of the residents in town, we have a plastic film program. A lot of people are aware of it. A lot of people participate, obviously. But this year, after 8 years in the program, we actually went over 20 tons of plastic. And I'll just finish with this. 2 tons is about 400 10-pound bags. 400 bags that we send off every year. And 400 bags would almost fill 3/4 of this room. So that's how much plastic we send off. So thank you for that. Everybody knows what no mow May is, right? Save those dandelions.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and now can I have the Fernandez family please come forward? Okay, so the next proclamation we have is for National Cornelia de Lange Syndrome, CDLS Awareness Day, which is May 10th of 2025. CDLS is considered a rare disease. Whereas the good health and general well-being of the people of North Branford, Connecticut, strengthened by our knowledge and understanding of a little-known genetic disorder known as CDLS. And whereas children with CDLS are usually born with low birth weight and develop at a slower rate, both cognitively and physically, and experience many medical complications. And whereas dedicated professionals are presently involved in valuable research to explore new therapies and diagnostic tools and to offer hope to children with CDLS. And whereas an estimated 30,000 men, women, and children in the United States have CDLS but remain undiagnosed or without support services. Therefore, they miss out on critical medical services and support that can impact their quality of life. And whereas North Branford, Connecticut is pleased to join people throughout our nation in promoting a special celebration which seeks to raise awareness of CDLS, designed to have a positive and productive impact on the lives of all people with CDLS and their caregivers. Now therefore, let it be known, the entire town council, on behalf of the grateful citizens of this town, hereby proclaim the 10th day of May 2025 as International Cornelia de Lange Syndrome Awareness Day in North Branford. Okay. Next item of business is fiscal year 25-26 budget deliberations. And actually, before we get into motions, we just have a few things for the Board of Education that we did not finish on our last meeting on April 10th. So I'm just going to start with a few questions for them. And just direct whoever wants to answer the questions is fine. So in the first account is health insurance, 210. So we notice that there's a large increase in there. And in going back through the budget, so in 23-24 in the budget presentation, the approved budget for 23-24 was approximately $3.7 million. And the proposed budget for 24-25, which is the current fiscal year, the proposed and the status quo was approximately $3.9 million, which represented a 5.37% increase, which was in line with the increase that we received on health insurance. But in the budget that we received for 25-26, which had the 24-25 budget amounts in there, the revised budget was $3.1 million, or a reduction of over $800,000 in there. And just wondering why there was such a large decrease if it's a known amount.
As we mentioned last time, the amount for this current year was reduced because June of 2024, we paid the July 2024 invoice, similar to as it has been done for the previous 18 years.
Right, so if you budget for 12 months and pay for 12 months, that would not have a dramatic effect on the reduction in the account, because it's, the only difference would be is whatever the monthly increase is.
The amount this year was reduced because we needed the funding to carry through with the rest of our programs, and we had the funds available at the end of last year, and the invoice was due prior to July 1st.
But the invoice isn't $866,000.
So $400,000 of that was for the July invoice paid in June, and the difference is the 9% anticipated increase in the health insurance. But actually, the renewal rates came in at 9.9%. So the increase came in for the Connecticut Partnership Plan higher than what was anticipated.
But it still stands that you budgeted for 12, you paid for 12 months. So it doesn't matter that you paid July and June, because that would have been the 12th payment, because you paid 12 the year before. So are you saying you paid 13 then?
This was brought up to the auditor as a concern, and she looked at everything. And
Right.
the
No,
fact that
that's
13
not
was
the question. The
paid
question
in the previous
isn't
year,
isn't
and
the
11 was
prepaying.
paid or will be paid this year, then it balances out. So July of 2024 will be considered a prepaid expense, as it always has been.
Right. No, I get all that.
Okay.
I understand all of that.
Okay.
So you budgeted for 12, you paid for 12, so, you know, the increase would just be whatever the 9% that you budgeted, which is roughly the $450,000, but it was cut much more than that. So you did it,
Again.
you did it to balance, so you didn't have to cut other places on
Correct.
there. But it's a known expense, and now you're asking for us to make that up again when you knowingly cut the budget more, when you knew you had this expense.
I didn't knowingly cut the budget. I had to.
Well, it was approved by the Board of
do
Education.
What we were given.
It was approved by the Board of Ed, so ultimately it was the Board of Education that approved your recommendation, the recommendation. on there. So that's fine. I mean, it's,
So you started off at the 18 years it's been done that way, just,
What-
okay, so we all are on the same page, right?
that's
18
fine.
years.
If you budget for 12, you pay
Okay.
for 12,
Okay.
that's
And
not
it's
a
practice for
problem.
the town as well.
Yeah, that's not
When we
the
were
issue.
self-insured, paying the town for a couple years.
Right.
So we're on the same page, 18 years historically done this way, self-insurance 2 years through the town. This is nothing new.
Right,
Okay,
that's
so we
not the
established.
question.
Okay.
That's not the
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
The answer was that you cut it further, knowing you had that expense to not cut in other accounts. That's what I heard. So that's fine. The next one is transportation, accounts 510 through 515. So in the 24-25 budget, it was,
It's the same explanation.
well, it's, you proposed a 20.73%
Yes,
increase.
There's a 4% increase for our contractual obligation with our current provider for the next fiscal year. The current fiscal year is short because, again, that amount was cut because of a prepayment made to the company for two reasons. One, to get the discount of 1.5%, because if you pay ahead, you get a discount. And the other reason was because, again, we were not given what we needed, and we had the money available last year. So just like it's been done for many years prior to even before I was here.
Yes, so again, it goes back to, you have 12, you budget for 12 months, you pay for 12 months. So it doesn't matter that you pay in June for the next month, because it picks up from the year before. So that's fine, that's not the question. The question becomes that you knew that was the contract on there, and so you're knowingly cutting areas that you know you're going to have to pay
If I don't have the
for.
expense because the invoice has been paid,
So
I'm
then,
not budgeting.
and I know that originally it's budgeted for 20.73% increase. There's only a 4% increase from DATCO. I took
There's
out the
increases
80,000.
on our outsourced
Right, I took that
transportation.
out, the $80,000.
There's
on-
also $36,000.
If you let me
additional
finish, I will,
funds.
that's all part of my notes here. I will let you, I took that out, the 80,000 and the 36,000 that was approved by the board on there. And that still leaves a 15.5% increase, and the contract is for 4% on there. So, it's 11% more of an increase that you're proposing again and it was cut and approved by the Board of Education to knowingly make that cut on there, even though you knew you had to make the payments on there, and you're asking for it. In my mind, you just asked for it again. So now, you're asking for not only the increase, but you're making up for stuff that should have been paid during this current school year. So the next one is tuition for non-public special ed, account 563.
Saying the same thing over and over again.
So,
Ms. Mayor, can I say something, please? Guys, this back and forth doesn't do anybody any justice, okay? We don't get a detailed budget from you. This is a very difficult year budgetary-wise, right? We want to try to do right by everybody, but the taxpayers are looking at an enormous increase if we're not fiscally responsible. We're trying to fill in the blanks from information that we don't have from you, okay? Nobody's casting any fault or judgment on you guys or anything else like that, but in order for us to make our decisions and be financially responsible, we need to fill in some of these gaps, okay? So if we can just all try to get along and just answer these questions and help us out here, nobody's taking shots at you, we're not coming after you, we're just trying to piece this all together.
No, and respectfully responding to that, Ron, yes, and I agree, because we got nowhere, and we want to get to next year's budget, because that's really what we're here for. We need to know where we're going to be for next year. All of this is past historical data that's not really playing into next year. We
But with-
have a
but with all
liaison, let me finish.
Go ahead.
We do have a liaison to the board. Every month, we do a financial report in detail that if the liaison is there, they have access to or they email for that. All of that information is shared with them. Questions are asked. We built this budget. We had multiple meetings with questions consistently coming that we answered in a timely fashion and sent back to Mike Downs and to the council for your review. Okay, so when we show up tonight, and we've already been through this, and then we don't get any questions to prepare for, I think it's disrespectful.
Well,
I just think, and then to expect.
well, on the flip, Scott, on the flip side of it, I gave you a second, but let me answer that because it's important. On the flip side of that, sitting where we sit, when we ask for information, it would be so nice to get it 2 to 3 days ahead of time so that we could all review it and take time to look at it. When we get handed papers while we're sitting here, again, all it does is make it more difficult on us.
Please, I sent all of that electronically to Mike Downs, and then what I do as a courtesy is bring you paper copies of everything else requested. So I submit it well in advance when we get it, always electronically, and then I run them so I can physically give you copies.
So with respect to some of these accounts, I know we talked about it last night because we met for quite a long time last night. Who met? We had a caucus. So,
Yeah, but we.
but some of these accounts, if there's money left over, and I'm just using an example, I'm not saying specifics, if there's money left over in an account or something was prepaid and there's money left over and we can give it back to you for your 2%, then we need to know if there's gonna be money there or not.
Our audit is finished. Yours is not.
I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, well, it wasn't the last time, so I don't know if there's any breaking news, but, so we don't know what money is coming back to that 2% because it hasn't been completed. And we've offered to assist, we've offered to assist with, assistance with payroll, assistance with munis, everything we can do because we know there's been some change in personnel down here. We're looking to assist in that process.
All right, well, we appreciate
These
that.
questions have been answered before, ad nauseum. They have been, and they've been sent electronically, and I handed them out to you in paper copy form. We're not getting anywhere with this, and I respect that you had a caucus last night. I need to know what my number is next year so that I can start preparing for whatever number I'm gonna have to work with to give people enough opportunity.
That's putting the cart in front of the horse, though. If you don't give us the information that we need in order to set that number,
You have
then,
all the information you need. You have a liaison that's at every meeting, that's asked every question.
All right.
And we've delivered responses in bounds of paper that you've seen.
all right, I don't want to take any more time
No,
with
I
this,
don't
but,
either,
but
but
if we
I-
can,
I-
if everybody can just take a big, deep breath and just work with each other here, it'll make it easier on everybody, okay? I would appreciate that.
I would too, Ron. I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so I will address that because I am the liaison to the Board of Ed. So I am the person he is referring to on there. And I will tell you that I have asked for information in emails after the budget workshops, and I have not received all of the information that was requested that I could share with you. As far as the information that the superintendent gave to the town manager, I went over everything with the town manager. He reviewed everything. He did send everything to us that the superintendent gave him, but it was not all of the information that we requested in the written document that he had on April 1st. So I don't want to belabor this. I know that these questions, I did not ask these questions at their budget workshops on there. And in reviewing the budget and getting the status quo budget, the line item budget, it's not as detailed to answer some of these questions. That's why I'm asking them, to get an understanding of why there is such a discrepancy, why there were such cuts from there. So they've answered them to my satisfaction in regards to the first two questions. So I'm ready to go on to the next one on here. So the next one was tuition for non-public special ed, account 563. And this has to do with the special ed excess cost grant. So in the question that was posed on April 1st and answered, it said that in the budget, they reduced this line item by $275,000, which was what was anticipated for the special ed excess cost grant. In looking at the data from last year's budget, for the increase for the current budget, 24-25, the budget was $912,223. When we look at the status quo budget that was given to us that has the 24-25 revised amount, it is $882,034. That's a reduction of $30,189. So in the information received, it said that they reduced it by $275,000, but I can't see that. I don't know if anyone else saw that in the budget, but I did not see the 275 by the numbers that are presented. It's only a reduction of 30,000 that I can see. And then the 25-26 budget is the same amount as the 24-25 revised budget. They just kept it the same. But again, there is no reduction. I don't see the reduction of $275,000. So that's why I'm asking, based on the information.
When we budget for tuition, we take the gross expenditures of what we anticipate for our non-public special ed students, and then we take out what we anticipate for our excess cost grants. And as you know, those, we never really know, because we don't know what the state's going to give us as far as a reimbursement percentage or what our actual costs are going to be. So that's the number that's put in as the budgeted number. The revised number is any transfers that happen into or out of that account during that fiscal year. That revision does not reflect the reduction of our anticipated excess cost. It reflects any transfers in or out of that account during the current fiscal year. So the excess cost is taken out of the gross number even before you see it.
Well, that was part of the questions that were asked about, all.
Because then when we do
can't tell
receive,
in the budget. That's why we're asking
when
the
we do
question.
receive those excess cost credits from the state, then they're applied to that non-public tuition line. So that's why.
What, and it would bring down the 912 even more because now you're applying the 275?
Not the budgeted amount, the expenditure amount. A credit will reduce your expenditure amount, not the budgeted amount.
So we just can't see it in the budget.
No, and you won't.
That's provided. So you can't tell that you did it because you don't see all of the things in there. And the last one has to do with the meeting yesterday on electricity and solar on there. And so some of the data that was requested that we didn't receive has to do with this because we didn't receive the invoices for the 3 schools that have the credit balances to them on there. And we had a lengthy discussion last year at this time in regards to solar, because it was new to both sides, both the town and the Board of Ed, is when the whole solar and electricity came to light last year during budget time. So what is, when I look at the budget and know that you had to make adjustments to the budget that was presented because of the amount of money that you got last year compared to what you had requested, so you had to make some changes in the budget, but there was no provisions made for solar.
You mean the credits?
To pay solar, Altus, on there.
Right, and we also didn't account for any of the credits because at this time last year, that was still kind of up in the air and no one really knew.
Right,
Right.
that's where the way we could get the credits to you based on the information we received from the town attorney, we estimated the credits that would be available to the Board of Education to get that money to you, and we estimated them to be $275,000. is the only way we could get that money to you, because the UI would not issue a check that we could actually give you the check for it,
Right.
is to put it into the 2%, to allow it to go into the 2% fund on
But
there.
I'm confused as to how you would give us credits when the credits are on our actual accounts at the utility company.
We gave you the money that was, we allowed the $275,000 that we estimated that the credits would be, because this was in March
Right,
and
but I-
April, and they actually ended up to be
I didn't budget
$375,000.
for, I believe the question you asked me last year was, did you account for the solar credits? And I said, no, I didn't account for the solar credits, but neither did I account for the solar fees. So that's why I had budgeted the way I did, because I
But in the
felt I
current-
couldn't budget for something that I didn't know on either end.
But in the current year, there's no budget for solar.
Yes, because I didn't. I didn't budget for solar fees, and I didn't budget for solar credits.
Well-
So on Thursday, at our Board of Education meeting, the board members are going to get a budget transfer request to transfer money from the Jerome Harrison electricity line to the solar line for Jerome. But even in that case, I believe it's 46,000 expended to date, and the budget is 50,000. So at the end of the year, I'm probably going to be over in just that one school. And then it was the same explanation for the intermediate school, the auditorium, and the high school. And the high school was compounded by the fact that the second phase of the building came on, and the new high school is much more electricity dependent than the old high school, because now of the chillers and the building automation systems and everything that's running 24/7 there that we did not have in the other building.
Right. So in the meeting yesterday, in regards to this, Jerome, NBIS, and the auditorium have credit balances. They had credit balance last year. They still have a credit balance. Have you paid invoices to UI for Jerome Harrison, NBIS, and the auditorium?
As I said, I have not paid any electricity bills to those schools, with the exception of $311.90 to NBIS for electricity.
Okay, that was,
But solar
The
fees.
solar fees alone add up to $245,000 that we've paid year to date.
So just to echo what is being shared, those solar payouts that we're paying, with what we're paying for electricity, we're going to be in the negative at the end of this year for what we projected. Because those credits, as you heard yesterday, from UI and the solar company, and how they were displaced and who's getting what, we're not getting any benefit at the high school. And both of them agreed that they need to go back, and this needs to be redone, because this formula
right.
is flawed. So when you say like we're not getting any savings, we're going backwards, because I'm paying solar fees, $246,000 with 2.5 months left in the school year, going into the air conditioning season. I'm guesstimating that we're going to continue to go in the negative.
But part of the problem is not the solar fees itself. Part of the problem is that they weren't budget, there was nothing in your budget for them.
But neither did I budget for the credits, so it washes.
Well, no, because your electric account is only, in your budget, is only $336,000, when originally it was $500 and some thousand.
But I paid $240-something, $6,000 in solar fees. Add the two together, doesn't matter, I'm still paying out, which
But-
would have been electricity versus
Right, but it's
solar
not,
fees.
again,
And
it's something that's not budgeted.
Right, but last year at this time, when we sat here, it was stated that because I had credits, I wouldn't need all of the money in the electricity line, and that we were to reduce the electricity line by that $275.
No, the 27, then you misinterpreted what was said. That's how we got the 270, that's why we put the 275 into the account 25, the 2% fund, because you didn't have to budget, you didn't budget for them, but you had the credits.
I don't have any money in the 2% fund right now except $5.
Right, well, you know that you have the 461,000 that you issued the purchase order for. So that you know is going in there, that's already there.
Well, that
On there.
final number won't come to me until after the audit is complete. So
Correct, but you know it's
that's
not-
what I was anticipating.
But you know it's not going to be less than 461. And based on preliminary reports, it's actually going to be probably closer to the 2% of your budget, which is closer to the $638,000, because there are certain things that are not going to be allowed that will come back into the fund on there. So, but you know you have $461,000 because you encumbered that. And that, there's no, I mean, that's fine. There's not a question in
Can I-
regards to that.
Is the town going to follow up with the providers to make sure that we don't continue?
I've
Because
already-
there's so much, I think we learned that yesterday.
Right.
That the confusion and looking at one another, and them trying to explain it, we were there in the meeting as well, that this hasn't played out nearly to what we
Right,
thought it was.
and this is beyond just us because Pura is
Yes.
involved in this.
Right.
And so on my way home from the meeting, I did call our state rep, and I am in contact with him, and we are working on this to see once what we can do on both sides, both the town and the Board of Education on this.
Well, we're the biggest,
But
obviously.
you are.
With the buildings and the amount. I
Correct.
think,
You take
as-
the-
As Anthony stated, for the small buildings, town hall, the libraries, you're doing just fine. But when you look at the auditorium, the middle school and the high school, if they collectively could have been on one account with those credits building towards one, and we had designed that, we wouldn't have this conversation.
Right, and so,
And that's, again,
and it would have helped had you come forward to the council to let us know this, not in the 11th hour, but 6 months ago or 8 months ago.
The 11th
This-
hour.
Well, I mean, we had the meeting last night, it's less than 24 hours ago.
What did
that-
I not let you know?
To have the meeting with Altus and, like, that this was a problem and you wanted to have the meeting with them?
We've been
Had we-
saying this has been a problem for,
months.
since December of
Months.
2022, when the solar fields came online.
They never did an energy audit on that new building. There shouldn't be any surprises.
So we are working on it, in regards to
We're
it, but.
waiting for you with Vinnie, you just mentioned.
I know,
So
it's less than 24 hours, so
Okay, we're anxious.
I mean,
Can I
you-
ask a question?
you've come forward with it to us and, just recently, so now you have to give us some time to work on it. It's not going to be solved by the time we have to finalize the budget, unfortunately. So, that's what, yes.
So I'm just trying to understand, how is budgeting for the solar credits in the non-lapsing fund that should be for our contingency use by the state appropriate for everyday expenditures of electricity? Shouldn't that be budgeted for in our general fund so that I don't have to spend electricity?
If you would have budgeted for it this year, but you didn't, so I don't know.
did.
There's nothing in your budget. When you look at your current budget, 24, 25, because I looked at it, and it says solar, and there's 0 in there for 24, 25. You did for next year, yes, but for 24, 25, there's nothing in there.
Right, I didn't budget for credits, and I didn't budget for solar fees, because
Well,
again,
you-
at this time,
You must have
last year,
budgeted
we didn't know
for
about
credits
any of this.
because you reduced the electricity. So when I look at
Based on what
the
was
information, what was given to us, what was originally budgeted for electricity and what's on your report right now, it is less. So it was taken out of there in regards to that. So those are budget issues. And for me personally, when I look at this, it's that it wasn't budgeted correctly. You made the conscious decision to reduce those accounts so that you had money in other areas. That's your decision. That's not us, so that's fine. So that answers my questions as far as Board of Education. Does anyone else have
Yeah,
any
I
other
have a
questions?
question. What's this meeting you're talking about? Because I'm confused.
No, we caucused.
Republican caucus.
All right, you had a Republican caucus, so they were there with you? This is Board of Ed? I'm
No,
confused.
two different meetings.
All right, two different meetings. okay,
They had a
so-
scheduled meeting to go over the solar stuff.
So we don't know a lot of the things they decided last night.
So,
We-
and then you had a meeting with,
Well, everything
The
that
Board
we
of-
decided
with the
is
Board of Ed?
on this.
so you had a meeting with the Board of Ed?
No. That was the meeting that Scott requested with UI and the solar company.
Oh,
It wasn't all of
and
us.
so what was the outcome of that?
The outcome was that what we have been sharing about the confusion of credits, about solar fees, about how this offsets, how, when it was established, when we had nothing to do with setting up the contract or anything about it. We inherited this as a board. We did not vote to or have any part of where the distributions would be, and it backfired. This has backfired on us. And the fact that I'm paying as much in solar fees, who they're very happy, they don't work with UI, they need to profit. And now UI, we're still paying, so when you look at it at the end of this year.
When you say they, who do you mean they?
UI. UI's not in the solar business, so they're gonna get a healthy chunk from us. I'm gonna be behind probably $300,000.
Right now, we're behind 245,000.
I'm behind 245,000 with my solar fees and with my electric fees with the solar field, because it wasn't, the solar hasn't been formulated so that my three biggest buildings on one campus are benefiting. For me to run through Stanley T. or Jerome, excuse me, I have 10 years worth of credits. It does me no good. It doesn't mean no good. I mean, so let's make it really clear. I'm going backwards. I'm going to be behind 1% of my budget on this solar field. That's the point that's important right here. And as for moving forward in the budget next year, I need to get down to, and I get it, I understand this, and I want to cooperate. I need to know, so when I go in tomorrow to work with my team here, what,
We're getting to that.
I know that, but that's what's really important. That's what's really, really important, because this conversation in the last, we beat it to death. We beat it to death. So,
I'm done.
okay.
I wanted some question answered because I wasn't aware of any meeting, so I wasn't sure if I wasn't invited or something. I'm just confused. Sorry.
It comes down to the way the solar credits were allocated to our smallest buildings are larger than what we can actually.
You don't have to explain it anymore because it
Yeah.
sounds like a mess to me.
is.
And that's why I don't want to get one for my house.
Well, think of a big house with a mess.
Okay,
It's
so,
been 2 years we've been talking about it still.
so we all have copies of the motions for the budget. We have gone over these in our budget workshops. These are all items that we have discussed prior. These are on the town side between general government and the CIP plan. In talking to the town attorney, we do not have to read each one individually on here. We can group them together and make a motion, because this document will become part of the minutes on there. So, there are so we're just gonna start, and I'm just gonna group them through. So, do I have a motion for items 1 through 5 on the Town of North Branford budget changes, as stated?
Make a motion as items 1 through 5 is stipulated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Goode. And just to recap, items 1 through 5, they deal with, there's a $3,000 reduction for reducing the hours of our clerk because we reduced the number of meetings. There's a motion to reduce the taxes on that. The motion is to also reduce the number of budget books that are printed. Then there is a motion to correct an error in the budget. And then there is a motion to return Totucket TV to the current funding level. So those are the first 5 motions and what they entail. Any other discussion on the first 5 motions?
So, just a question for Totucket TV.
Mm-hmm.
Is it to return it to the current level or to?
Yes, his current level is $13,000 in the current budget. In the budget for next year that was presented to us, it was increased by $4,000 to $17,000. So this $4,000 cut brings it back to his current funding level.
We're not cutting where he's at, we're staying where he is. Can he operate that way?
Well, he is getting more money because of the recent change in his lease.
Right.
So that change gives him another $3,600
Okay.
in his
So, all
budget.
right, so it's just short 400. Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Do I have a motion for motions 6 through 10 on the budget changes, Town of North Branford?
Motion under 6 through 10 is stipulated.
Second.
Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Goode. These motions are for reducing the number of budget books printed, other contractual to adjust the new hire expenses. It also reduces or puts back the payroll clerk. It was in the budget for full-time, and it brings her back to her current position of part-time. And then there's a motion in central services to adjust for all of the telephone. We've moved all of the telephone charges from various departments into central services and taken them out of the departments. And then also to eliminate the maintenance on the AS400 council. So those are the next 5 motions that we're motioning. Is there any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I have a motion for items 11 through 15?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. These motions handle maintenance, reducing maintenance on other buildings, transferring facilities maintenance from central services to Department of Public Works, reduces letterhead, and adds into the budget for electricity and heating oil at 260 Forest Road, which is the old police station. Any questions or discussion on those motions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve items, motion 16 through 20?
Motion stipulated 16 through 20.
Second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Goode. These motions cover a lock-in to fuel prices, reducing data processing in the assessor's office, eliminating printing of the grand list bindings, eliminating payments to the Board of Assessment and Appeals under other contractual, and adjusting the budget in the tax collector's office for the quality data system. Is there any discussion on these motions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve items 21 through 25?
Motion is stipulated, 21 through 25.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Goode. These motions include reducing the town attorney fees for litigation due to the fact that we do not have any contracts up for negotiation next year, and reducing our Dropbox subscription, removing cameras for the town hall that were in the current year's budget, and fixing a retirement error was just a formula error, and to eliminate the broad sky backup on the internet. Any discussion on these items? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve items 26 through 30?
Motion is stipulated, 26 through 30.
Do I have a second? Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. These items entail telephone, consolidating VoIP expenses in the planning department, reducing the police pension, reducing facilities, transferring facility maintenance from the police department over to public works, locking in fuel prices in the police department, and eliminating Comcast at all of the Comcast TV at the firehouses. Are there any discussions on these items?
I would just like to abstain from 27, please.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Please note that Councilor Miller did just on item 27. Do I hear a motion for items 31 through 35?
Motion is stipulated, items 31 through 35.
Second.
These items include copier adjustments in the fire department, providing streaming in lieu of cable TV for the firehouses, a reduction in other contractual for the fire department on their physicals, and adjustments to lock in fuel on pricing for heating fuel and motor fuel and lubricants for the fire department. Any discussion on these items? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve items 36 through 40?
Motion is stipulated, items 36 through 40.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Palladino. These items include reducing technical equipment in the fire department, reducing the ambulance subsidy, eliminating the part-time assistant building official and the related taxes, consolidating the telephone for public works, and increasing the facility maintenance to establish the facility maintenance account for all town departments. Any discussion on?
Can I just ask a question, and maybe I missed this last time? How does reducing that subsidy for the ambulance service fund affect the town in any way? Does that affect us in any way? I'm just curious.
It has no real impact.
No?
The ambulance service fund is a separate fund off budget, and typically the board determines what the amount needs to break even. If we fund it short typically every year. It remains in a negative fund balance. It's not a big problem.
It doesn't impact services at all?
Yeah.
I just want to check.
Yeah,
That's good
that's
question.
fine.
Good question.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I would like just to go on the record on item 38, which I would highly recommend the council to reconsider on this. You heard from Chris Holden, our engineer, our building official, Steve Bichetti, and while I understand there was at some point a discussion that this, during a previous council, that the position would be eliminated at some point. I think the needs of the town with regards to obtaining these permits has accelerated in a demonstrable amount, where I'm concerned that eliminating this post will give us worse service to those who come in to obtain permits out of that office. So just want to go on record opposing that.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve items, motions 41 through 45?
Motion's as stipulated, 41 through 45.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. These motions include, in Public Works, reducing outside contractors, the amount budgeted for outside contractors, a reduction in heating fuel due to locking in funding, the fuel price, a reduction in motor fuel and lubricants due to the lock-in of fuel prices, a reduction in road salt, and an increase in social services. Currently, the part-time person in social services works 500 hours a year, which is approximately 10 hours per week. It was requested to put this position at 19 hours a week. It was originally cut from the town manager, and we are proposing to institute it back to the request at 19 hours a week in social services. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve items 46 through 50?
Motion is stipulated, items 46 through 50.
Second?
Second.
Well, motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Goode. These items carry in social services, just consolidating the telephone expenses to central services, eliminating cable TV in the building because we are going to fiber up there in streaming services. In the library, eliminating Sunday hours. In the library, reducing facility maintenance for the lift maintenance proposal. They were able to find one that was cheaper than what was in the budget. We are still maintaining it, but it's at a cheaper cost. And then moving facilities maintenance from the library to the Department of Public Works. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I realize that we have to look for places to cut, and I understand that. I'm just very, very sorry to see that we're going to eliminate the Sunday hours at the libraries. I think that, from what I've been able to observe, I think people like to use them on Sunday. It's unfortunate, but I do understand. But I think I would like some time for us to look at how many other towns have Sunday hours and maybe rethink that in the future. I understand we have to do it, but I'm sorry to see that happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a huge proponent of keeping it open on Sunday as well. I personally enjoy going there, but the time period that it is currently open in North Branford is, and Lauren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is November to March,
Yes.
which is typical time where our weather isn't as favorable. The reduction that we were looking at was going to bring it to January to March, which somewhat negligible to have just the 3 months and just the Sundays. We did look at other towns. Most surrounding towns are closed on Sunday. There are one town, I believe it's Guilford, again, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only open 3 hours on a Sunday. It is something that we can revisit. Right now, we're in a point where we have to make some cuts.
No, I appreciate
mean,
that, I'm just saying, I
I-
think I'd like to look at some of this.
Yeah, we'd like
do
to
a
see that maybe
survey.
happen again at some point. We did talk about that. We talked about possibly having one building operational on Sunday for a period of time, but right now, we're trying to make cuts where we can, where it makes sense, and I know you appreciate that, but it was an unfortunate cut that needed to be made, but it's something we will keep close eye on. If, Lauren, if you think that there's, a true desire for it and we need to rethink it, let us know and we'll take that seriously.
Will do, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. The lift maintenance, that was reduced by $700?
Yes.
Is that a legitimate I'm sorry, because we were talking about it. Is it the same, did you just go back to the company that installed it?
No, it's the same company that maintains the elevator at the Smith. So it'll be the
Okay.
same company for both buildings, 2 different pieces of equipment.
Okay.
The
Condos is
original
good.
quote was from the.
I thought you were doing it.
They didn't let me.
I
Try.
thought you put a bid in.
I even bought lithium grease. They said no.
1,800?
Oh, no, we got cable.
I want something certified.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Lithium
Okay, so the next motions for approval are items, oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Mayor, you didn't vote on that.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. The next items are 51 through 55. Do I hear a motion to approve?
The motion is stipulated, items 51 through 55.
Second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Goode. These items include a reduction in professional development at the community center, equipment maintenance, which is to correct the copier amount, to reduce the telephone, to eliminate Comcast internet because fiber is being installed, the facility maintenance that's being transferred over to the Department of Public Works, and a reduction in heating fuel due to the locking of pricing of fuels. Are there any questions on these? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, next one is for a motion for items 56 through 59.
Motion is stipulated, items 56 through 59.
Second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. These items are to reduction in motor fuel and lubricants due to the locking of prices, eliminating under technical supplies cable TV, reducing the town council contingency, and transferring out from operating transfers to the community gift fund. Any questions on these? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. The next three items, items 60 through 62, have to do with the CIP budget. Do I have a motion to approve items 60 through 62?
Motion is stipulated, items 60 through 62.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. These items include allocating funds to address security upgrades in Town Hall, using budget funds as the funding source. Funding source, budget funds for the fire marshal car, This item is just being moved under budget funds over to other funding sources. So this, taking it out of budget funds has a direct impact on the mill rate. The other funds will not affect the mill rate, but we still are doing this item. The funding is just coming from someplace else. And the third item is, the funding source is budget funds, and this is for the Board of Education, taking out the HVAC for the TBS gym for $250,000 and allocating $50,000 towards the Board of Education paving at Jerome Harrison and TBS from budget funds. The other $200,000 will be coming out of the fund balance, which does not have effect on the mill rate. So that's why there will be a reduction of $200,000, the difference between those two. We're still funding the paving at $250,000. It's just where the funding sources are coming from.
And it's coming from the gym? Is that
Well,
what
we're
you're saying?
not doing the gym, we're not doing the HVAC in the gym. We're dealing with paving issues on there. The paving issues, the capital projects that was approved by the Board of Education, they were ranked in order, and paving was the #1 issue on that capital request. And so we gave the Board of Ed the option of where they want the paving, and from what was indicated to us, it's Totucket Valley is the area that they would like done first on there. So that.
Okay.
Out of 250, 200.
Are there any other questions?
Just 50.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
All right. Motion, item 63, education to increase the budget of the Board of Education over the 2024-2025 budget.
Okay. So, the amount? Nope.
Oh, 200,000.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Goode. Discussion?
Can I ask what percentage increase that is?
2 over... It is just over 0.5%.
0.5%. And what do we think is going to be in the 2% fund for the Board of Ed?
I don't know, Justin.
How do we?
So can I, so-
I don't know what they'll, because the 2% fund is, they have
Right.
jurisdiction over what goes in that. So they can put in up to 2% of their current budget in there. So I don't know, that's not up to us, that would be up to them.
So for clarification, I think I just heard this right. Our break even 6.16 was $2,080,000 that was requested. $2,088,000. We're receiving $200,000. So I need to find, just for clarification, $2 million. And you're saying that in my 2%, which caps at $678,000, which would still find far short, would be $1.5 million away, quick math. We just built a $74 million high school. And I'm going to have to find a significant amount of money, which is going to impact programming. So we potentially could have no culinary in our new culinary. Tech ed, I spend $710,000 a year on sports. I guess I can remove that. And, you know, I have to chunk money. I'm not gonna find it in paraprofessionals. I'm not gonna find it in people that are making minimum wage. So the way that I'm gonna have to make this up is in certified salaries. And to give $200,000, I'm dumbfounded by that. So if I go and charge to make up $710,000 in sports, and I have 193 kids playing a spring sport right now, it's gonna be $1,000 a season, guys, gals. And then a winter sport with less kids, it's gonna be more. And I'll have to get it back, because that's extracurricular. We don't really need that, do we, to run the school system? So I can get rid of it. I can shut the culinary. I can shut tech ed. I don't really need this.
Listen, we understand that
Okay, I just
these
want
are
to
not
get back.
preferable things,
I'm
but we're...
speaking on behalf of the Board
I
of
get it.
Education.
Trust me.
And I'm making a statement because I'm responsible for giving the best opportunities from pre-K through our 22-year-olds, every opportunity to move to this town, to buy a home, and to want to settle here because of your school system. So we made great strides in over my 15 years talking about putting a new high school in and building it up and talking about what our kids are doing and where they're going and how we want to bring manufacturing. We want every student to have an opportunity there. And I'm going to have to try to figure this out with a $2 million cut. I mean, the capital stuff, keep your pavement, keep everything else. I don't want pavement. I need teachers. I need teachers. I don't need pavement.
Well, we need to maintain to have
Well,
a
we need to
safe.
maintain, but we need to maintain
So-
programs for people who want to come to this town. And I don't control the mill rate, and I know the reevaluate, I know all of that. And I live in the town, and I understand everything about paying taxes.
So you
in
know
your
that
town.
this is the largest, it's the largest increase of the mill rate. You already know that. I'm trying to work here, and excuse me, my allergies really getting me today, and help the Board of Ed as much as I can. But there's only so much money that we have to spend. There's no blood coming from his nose, as
I
I
guess
said before.
I'd ask the
We have to figure a way
percentages
to allocate it.
for the other departments. Are they at less than 1%? Like
It's
mine is?
immaterial. It's like, you're talking about completely different.
It's not immaterial because it's needs based upon. And
I
we're the
understand, but you
grandest.
can't
We're
say,
the most
Scott,
employees for.
hear me out. We're not gonna talk over each other, correct? Correct. So,
Okay, I wasn't
I
finished,
won't.
but go ahead.
Oh, if you're not finished, I'll let you go. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt
With
you.
the other departments, I was saying, whatever their percentage is, based upon their employees, their health, everything that plays into that, if it's greater than 1%, they're getting a greater amount than what they've asked for, or equal to what they've asked for. You know, I'm saying for us, we were at 6.16 for a break-even point of over $2 million. I'm getting $200,000. And I think you just have to understand the gravity of a cut like that. So just understand that it's not a magic wand, it's not the 2% fund, because all you do is dig a hole when you take that money and push it forward to next year. You're gonna have to recoup it and recover it. And our 5-year enrollment is static. We're at 1,600 kids, and we're gonna start, we're not going down. That trend has ended, and our kindergarten enrollments are showing that we're gonna be back to 120 plus a class. We've offered pre-K, we've done all of these things to now go backwards. And it's my responsibility to talk on behalf of the board.
I get it. I understand
And
that.
if I'm not fighting for the board, no one is.
We're not fighting against the board. We're all in town. You know as well as I do that I have a kid in school, and I love the school system. I went through it. I care about it. I want it to be the premier school system in the area. We just don't have the money. And we talk about budgets. We talk about 1% in a budget that's a couple million versus 60, 70 million. It's a very, very, very different number. I get it. This is hard for everyone. It's difficult for everyone to try to figure out how to make it work. And
I
we
have to
understand the
say,
job's
though,
not lost
I
yet.
have to say, though, that you guys decided that last night at a caucus. It's not even written on this piece of paper. When I asked today what you guys were talking about for giving to the Board of Ed, I did not get an answer. I don't know how Craig feels or how Bruce feels. I did not know until you just read that amount. It isn't even printed on here. I feel very badly that that's the way it happens with the Board of Ed budget.
My reason for stating the obvious is that it's your decision. And I'm gonna have to go back and make really hard decisions. And a lot of people are gonna be impacted, people that live in this community. that you know that live in this town. And there's going to be services that are not offered and programs that are not offered. That's the price of doing business. We're no different than any other community that's asking for the same amount, or more than we're asking for at status quo. And I understand that, yep, status quo is not going to, okay, but somewhere in between status quo and ground zero, I'm really disappointed that it's $200,000. I'm really disappointed. Because when you make an investment in your community for your education and you build a $75 million flagship building, and you're proud about it, and you want to stand in front of it and take pictures and have your name on a plaque, well, there's a price for doing business. Education is expensive, and we've explained that, but that's what brings people to your community. That's what people are proud of, and that's why they want to be here. And there's many Thunderbirds sitting at the table whose children went through our school system as well. And they got great educations, and they're doing what they want to do right now because of it. And we are a different town, and we're really proud of that. But we've done this every year, and we've relied on the 2% fund to bail us out every year. We spent over $1.2 million in the last 5 or 6 years, and that's gone now. And we're shoveling a hole that we're going to have to fill again. And maybe it's not going to be any better next year. I don't have a crystal ball, and I certainly understand it. But I'm disappointed.
Okay.
Something I want to say, Scott, and I'm not just addressing you and the Board of Ed, I'm addressing the whole town in this. And we spent a lot of time, this has been really hard, which we've all kind of said. But we're to the point now where I've had people come to me, and they're always saying how, about the taxes and everything, and how with the revals and everything. There's people that have houses that were worth $250,000 that are worth $350,000, now $400,000. And it's not a couple people, there's a lot of people. And there's probably, maybe there's people out there listening right now that don't realize it, but it's coming like right away. Your taxes are going up $2,000. $2,000 a year. And this goes back to a few years ago when we were before the high school was built, and I was in our meeting for the budget for the Board of Ed, and I spoke up, and literally everybody jumped out of their seats when I said, how much are you willing to pay for the new high school? And everybody went, whoa, how could you even say that? You can't put a price on that. And I spoke up, and I think I said, you willing to pay $500? You willing to pay $1,000? Well, you know what? Well, now you're paying $2,000. We are paying. And we had to redo, how many different roofs did we redo? We built the police station, we built the $85 million school, and now we got to pay. And we haven't even started paying yet. We haven't even started. This is just beginning. This isn't going to get easier, this is going to get worse. That's where we're at. It's going to get worse. And we got to remember, we live in a town where the same person that complained to me can go to, I'm not going to say another town's name, they can go to another town that has 5 acres of property, a bigger house, be close to the center, be close to the beach, and their taxes are less.
And I understand that. Well, and I also understand that economic development in this town, because of Route 80, we haven't capitalized on opportunity. And there's the tax base relies on the taxpayer.
Correct.
I get that. I live in a town with Route 1, and Route 1 generates a ton of tax base and other corporate things. And that's the challenge of being on the town council, is generating and bringing business into this town. I get it. You can't have it both ways. And us bonding money out over time, what we're saying here now is your house escalated up $200,000, but you want to be taxed on $250,000, not $450,000. I get that. And then you sell your house, where are you going to go? You're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the price of doing business, and we're no different. And I understand that, Walter, I truly do. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't sitting here and speaking for the impact of children that your kids all went through, and somebody paid for that. My kids went through, and I paid. I'm still paying for it. My kids are all out of K-12, pre-K-12. That's the responsibility we take on. We're proud of our town. People are moving to our town. We're building houses everywhere, and they're not 2,000 square foot homes. These are big homes. And people are saying, I would rather live in North Branford than go, I'm not going to say neighboring towns, because of this community, of how this community rallies, what they stand for, the fabric of the community. That's why people want to move here. And that's the hard work that's gone into getting to this point, but there's a price to pay for that. So the person who has children in the high school right now, and then they're gonna play a sport or do an activity, and I'm gonna charge them $150 to $200 per season or more, they're gonna end up paying $600 or $700 for their student just to play or be in an activity per year. So I think that the general consent, if it's a shared responsibility of our community to give our children an opportunity to then go off, be educated, do their pursuit of what they want to do, and come back and give to our community and be a part of our community. That's how we grow this. And I get it. I understand what everyone's saying here.
Okay, I'm going to close comments off because this was not a general comment question. This is not comment section right now, so I'm just going to stop the comments right there. We do have a motion on the floor in regards to it. The one thing I do want to clarify to the public is there were several different figures thrown out about the cost of the high school. It is not 85 million, it is not 75 million, it is not 74 million. It is 70 million. That is all that we have authorized to bond for. We have not gone over that price at all. It is still just $70 million. So, you know, people are, there's a lot of talk out there about the cost of the high school, so I just want to make sure that we get the right cost out there for the high school. That project is not closed out yet. It is not fully bonded. We will not have to bond $70 million for that. We will have figures on that later this year before we go out and do our next bonding, but there is state reimbursement on the high school, so it will not be close to $70 million on that. So the motion is on the floor.
Can I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Yes, I was going to do a roll call vote. Roll call?
Mayor Angeloni,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMillan,
Yes.
Counselor Abelson,
No.
Counselor Diamond,
No.
Counselor Gold,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
No.
Counselor Palladino,
Yes.
Counselor Felicia,
Yes.
Counselor Zampano.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 6-3.
So, can I say one thing? I voted no, because you didn't include us. I understand you were caucusing with the Republicans, and you called me to sit there and warn me about this. No problem. I also asked about how much it was, and you didn't give me a figure.
That didn't happen then, because I didn't have all the
Obviously, it just
motions.
happened. So, I just don't appreciate the fact that you caucused, you should have invited us.
You can't in a caucus.
Well, then we should have had a meeting.
Yeah, well, then
Just-
if,
but I'm just, I'm just
this is
saying,
the
I
meeting right
understand
here.
we're caucusing, and it was just, and whatever it is.
Bruce,
You know, I like you, I'm just saying, I get it. I understand it, but you should have did it differently.
It's
I'm done.
Bruce, you can't do, I mean, in all
No, I
fairness,
understand.
you
No.
can't, literally can't do it a different way.
Yeah.
You've got to change Robert's rules if you want to do it a different way.
Wait,
That's procedure.
I understand.
I don't like
The
to
meeting,
interrupt
the
the
meeting is right now in
Yeah,
public.
well, the figure just, like Marie said, it just all of a sudden
So-
just happened.
So,
So-
okay, we're going to.
You guys can caucus as well, but there's nothing.
Yeah, but just, what are we gonna caucus about?
I understand, but I'm just saying that's the way Robert's rules
I
are.
get it, I
Yeah,
understand about Robert's rules. I'm just saying, you could, yes, you did caucus, but you could have a special meeting.
Wait,
We
it's-
could,
it's-
this is the special
we
meeting.
could.
This is the special meeting, right here.
Before, or whatever.
So,
That's why I voted no. Just-
that's fine.
Fair enough.
Okay. So we have some other, the CIP budget, the one sheet, Anthony sent this out here, and there are some motions that need to be taken care of to approve the CIP here. Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to add $75,000 to the CIP budget from the fund balance for a townwide forensic audit.
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor Palladino, seconded by Counselor Felicia. Discussion?
We had talked about this afternoon. I actually thought about it. I have an issue with it, okay? Because if it goes out to bid, what I'd like, that it can't be, because I know we take the lowest bidder, but it can't be anybody that anybody knows, and it has to be an accounting firm that's totally nondescript from the town.
Well, there's certain requirements
I
that are,
understand
that are
It
done.
can't be
so-
from, it can't be an attorney, somebody from the attorneys that know, somebody Michael knows, somebody that you know,
Well,
that
we-
goes out to bid. I know how the bidding process operates. You want to do the forensic audit? Okay, no problem. You want to do that? That's cool. But it can be from somebody that no one knows, from an accounting firm that's oblivious to the town.
Well, we can't
I
guarantee
understand
that.
that, but that's how,
I mean,
I
where
will vote
people
for
work.
it if it happens that way.
Can you tell us what we have to do? Like what?
Well, you're going to go out to bid, and you know, for an audit, there's certain qualifications. It can't be someone that has a relationship with the town. It can't be a current.
Right, we can't have a relationship with you, or you, or you.
Well-
And it
I
has to
think,
be
you know,
stipulated that way.
We may deal with the accountants in that. We have accountants in all the towns our firm represents. Doesn't mean I have relationships with them, you know who they personalities are. You know, you want to find an accounting firm that no one's ever heard of.
No, I'm just saying, I get it, but I'm just saying, I understand how the bidding process operates. And for you to sit there and do a forensic audit on the town, and on the whole town, which includes the Board of Education, it has to be somebody that no one has a relationship with. That is what I'm saying. I said my piece.
They wouldn't be qualified to bid if they had their relationship.
Well, it has to be an approved accounting firm. An approved accounting firm. An audit firm anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you want to do that,
It comes
I'm
before,
cool with
it comes back before the council
Okay.
in regards to that.
Just
And they
can't have a
professionally
relationship
I mean,
with
they have
them.
their own standards. They would have to disclose any potential conflicts. They would.
Do they?
Because, absolutely.
Of course. Yeah.
Auditors, yes. Otherwise, it's not an independent audit. If they, you know, if they're
It goes out to bid, we take the lowest bid.
lowest qualified.
Lowest responsible bidder.
Lowest qualified, lowest responsible, and they would have to disclose. Ethically, they can't undertake the audit if
They
the
know
spouse
somebody.
of the partner is employed by
I'm
whatever,
just-
you know. How it works is something that would not.
I don't know how bids operate.
I'd like to make a comment as well. I don't think you have to be an accountant. If you hear the word forensic audit, you immediately think somebody's thinking fraud. I don't understand why we're having a forensic audit when we haven't even gotten the audit from last year. I know the Board of Ed has to do a report every summer. They have to do something called ED-001. My understanding is if there was a problem with the Board of Ed, they would have heard from the state after they did that ED-001. We haven't even seen the budget from the audit from last year, and we're already talking about a forensic audit. I don't understand. I just don't understand.
When you do a forensic audit, what does that encompass? Like, it's everybody, or it's just certain areas? I mean, because every time when I've always questioned someone for a forensic audit,
You
it's
can-
like I'm questioning someone's
It's
integrity
not,
and someone's...
you set the parameters of what you want them to look at. It's more in-depth than what the audit that we are required to have from the state right now, which does
That's a
the
line
town.
item by line item by line item.
Yeah,
It's
no.
everything that's out there now. The state, so if the state if the state does an audit, are they missing something?
The state's not doing the audit.
Well, who does your audit for the Board of Education?
The same auditor that does the town.
Okay, so are they missing something?
They do random samples. They're not going to guarantee if they're going to look at every single transaction. I mean, the cost would be phenomenal. So they price it on basically through random samples of whether it's receivables or taxpayers or all different categories. They can't possibly check every single transaction that the board or town does. So they rely on random samples based on the dollar thresholds they have, and that's the way that's the way they audit. They don't. They're telling you they're not going to find touch every single transaction.
That's the way forensic audit? Or are you
No,
talking
that's
about
the way-
regular?
that's
General. Okay, I was gonna say,
Transaction.
Right. It's random samples. That's the way, I mean.
So a forensic audit is they touch every transaction. Line item,
That's not true.
no?
No. You give them areas to focus on, and they focus on those areas. And that's something we can all discuss before we...
So you caucused last night, so you've already decided when it all happens, what they're gonna focus on?
You missed the
So
second
we'll
half
have
of what I
we'll
just
have a
said.
discussion on what's going to be...
Yeah, before we put
We'll
out,
have to agree on
Before we bid out
On
the
bid,
the
who
bid
it would
specs,
be, and
we'll
see
all have
what
a conversation.
exactly it would encompass.
But you're going to approve the bid specs as you've done with other projects.
Right.
What you're bidding on, so part of that discussion is what does forensic audit mean? Are you looking at revenue sources? Are you looking at expenditures? Are you looking at management? You know, it depends what you're looking for, and that's.
So then why are we doing it? Are you afraid that this is actually gonna hurt us doing this? Possibly. How
Well,
would it
then it's
hurt?
fiduciary that's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's, there, I'm not saying we're gonna do anything wrong, because we don't get paid here, so it's not like, and I have anything to do with any of the books. But,
Well, you-
yeah, but if you're gonna sit there and you're gonna sit there and do a forensic audit
Bruce,
on
you
the
know that
town,
you're a
and you're gonna
fiduciary,
sit there and go and do a forensic audit on the Board of Education, what are you looking for? Are you looking for something specific?
We haven't discussed that.
But that's what
discussion for us.
that's what you're asking us to sit there and approve $75,000 to sit there and go out and do a bid for a forensic audit. What exactly, if you want my phone, I'm okay with it. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? What are you drilling down to?
We wanna make
What
sure
do you
we
want to
get
find,
right.
what do you want to look in the Board of Education's budget? What do you want to look for in Anthony, that he's doing a phenomenal job? What are you looking for?
We're looking for a zero. We're looking to come up with zero. That's the goal, zero.
You get friends of God.
That's a very tough
I'm
budget.
just saying, that forensic audit is a scary thing.
Why would it be scary? Everything's perfect,
Have you
right?
ever had a forensic audit done? Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right, so the motion is on the floor to add this to using fund balance to the CIP, and we'll do a roll call for it.
Mayor Angeloni,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McMillan,
Yes.
Counselor Abelson,
No.
Counselor Diamond,
No.
Counselor Goad,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
No.
Counselor Palladino,
Yes.
Counselor Palicia,
Yes.
and Counselor Zampano.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 6-3.
I never said that. No.
Okay, other items on the CIP budget that we have to approve on here. These do not have any changes to the mill rate. It's just moving money. These are from the fund balance, so it's just reallocating money from the fund balance to certain areas. So the first motion is to establish an equipment reserve account. It's a combined equipment reserve account. It's for $200,000. The next motion is to reduce the fire equipment reserve fund balance by $225,000. The next motion is to reduce the public works equipment reserve account by $169,000. The next one is for public works to allocate $35,000 for security upgrades. The next one is to allocate $60,000 to the Smith Library sidewalks and curbing. The next one is to allocate $125,000 to fund a senior van. This is to replace one of the current ones. And the last one is to allocate $200,000 for paving at Jerome Harrison and TVES. So these changes, the pluses and minuses, will not have any effect on the mill rate. It just establishes where they will end up, the amount. And we are taking $1,324,000, actually now it's $1,399, 1.399 from fund balance for the CIP. So these are motions 64 through 70. Do I have a motion?
Motion is stipulated, 64 through 70.
Oops, who had Bruce? Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Abelson. Any discussion?
Can you explain 65, the funding source for fire equipment reserve?
They originally had $550,000 in the CIP budget, and that was to cover the leases that they currently have, and also for a lease payment on engine 1. And we found out that we do not have to make any payments on engine
okay.
1, and it's a 2 to 4 year wait to
Yep.
get it. So we took.
That's what we talked about, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We took
I
money
just want to
from
make
there.
sure they're not getting something taken away.
Yeah, no, so we just took money from there and Public Works to establish.
Public Works, the same thing with their equipment then?
Yes.
Okay.
To establish the equipment, reserve account.
Oh. Got it.
Are there any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. The next motion, you want to read that one?
Yep. Motion 71, item 71. In light of the extraordinary budget pressure the town council is under to bring the 2025-26 operating budget in with a responsible mill rate, several key items that historically have been funded and are being eliminated. Among the items being eliminated is North Fair Police Department's membership in the South Central Criminal Justice Association, invoking the non-appropriation clause in the town's agreement. The Chief of Police will notify SCCJA that the decision of our membership will end June 30th, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. Any questions?
What's this membership?
This was a cut that was made between, when there was discussion talk between the town manager and the chief, police chief. And actually, this is a recommendation that the chief made to come back to eliminate, to cut this. And in order to get out of the contract, we need to take formal action with it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. And number 72, Bruce, would you like to do this one? Well, I know this one is near and dear to your heart.
72 is what? So. The North Branford Town Council hereby authorizes Town Manager Michael P. Downs to work with representatives of the North Branford Fire Department to purchase a new engine 1. The Town Manager is directed to keep the Town Council appraised of the progress and to return to the Town Council when funding options are discussed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councilor Abelson, seconded by Councilor Miller. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. So this completes all of budget deliberations. So this will give Anthony time now to get everything ready for further in our budget and the town council agenda to finalize the budget, ratify it, and approve the question for the referendum. So we're going to go into the regular town council meeting now, which first item is reports of committees, boards, and commissions. First one is economic development.
I didn't show up for the meeting, so I have nothing.
Okay, no problem. The next one is Park and Recreation. Their meeting was supposed to be tonight, and that is being rescheduled to next week. Police Commission?
The Police Commission met on April 14th. There was continuing discussion about the heating and AC problem at the facility. I understand that the Permanent Project Building Committee brought all the parties together last night, and hopefully can, and they also talked to the attorney, hopefully can come up with a solution. The police chief announced that they have received the 2 Dodge Durangos. The other 2 vehicles that they're taking out of the fleet, according to Police Chief Lovelace, are really not able to be used by anyone. They would probably be either sold or put to auction, and the Police Commission is asking that the town council consider that any proceeds from either a sale or an auction would go into a new vehicle fund. Interesting discussion about motor vehicle accidents. There have been a significant increase in North Branford, but North Branford is no different from any other town in this state. The department has developed a plan to deal with motor vehicle incidents. They've increased the stops to 163%, so they're really out there trying to calm things down. I think we all see that happen to us these days in terms of motor vehicle problems. And the other last item is that they're involved now in tiers 2 and 3 of the police accreditation, and they're probably going to be finished a year early. They're doing a really great job on that, and that's my report.
Okay. Next is Fire Commission.
So we met on the 17th, and just a couple of things that they reviewed was the budget that they went over. They recognized a couple of firemen for their bravery on Route 139 in January. They were giving some accommodations to those firemen. And just wanted to put out that Earth Day is the April 26th on Saturday, and I believe that Anthony will be there handing out fire helmets. Also on Tuesday, May 6th at 10:30 at the Smith Library, a firefighter story is going to be read. Who's reading that? And then everybody's invited for a touch-a-truck on Saturday, May 17th from 11 to 1.
Okay, thank you. Planning and zoning.
They met last Thursday, but I wasn't able to attend.
Okay, thank you. Finance Subcommittee met last 2 weeks ago on there, and we discussed some adjustments to the administrator's benefits, and that will be on an upcoming council meeting. And that was the only thing that we talked about on there due to the budget season. That was it. Next is Public Safety Communications Subcommittee.
The Public Safety Communications Subcommittee is having a special meeting tomorrow night at 5 p.m. to continue the discussion as to how we can do something about the fact that we are still having terrible problems with the radios for the fire department and public works. And then hopefully it goes back to the town attorney for some additional help.
Okay, thank you. Inland Wetlands.
The meeting tomorrow night is canceled.
Okay. And Blueprint Committee.
No meeting last month.
Okay. All right. Town Manager's Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Sort of like when Christmas is over and you come down from a buzz, so we're in the afterglow of another successful bulk pickup, which was conducted last week. The next bulk pickup for the town will take place in the fall, the week of November 3rd. We had another successful electronics recycling event on April 12th at the Public Works headquarters. Thanks to the members of our Solid Hazardous Waste Recycling Committee and Public Works team, we collected 11,238 pounds. I want to take a moment to recognize National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, which was last week, April 13th to the 19th. Our dispatchers are the unsung heroes of our public safety response, and I hope residents will join us in recognizing their service to our residents. They're on the front line of the front line and the critical first link in the chain of our emergency response, and we thank our dispatchers. The budget referendum, which of course is the next step in the budget process. And I want to take a moment to discuss the process for the referendum following Town Council's actions this evening. The Council's recommended budget will go before town residents in our annual budget referendum. Printed budget books of the council's recommended budget for interested residents will be available in Town Hall on May 2nd. Digital versions will be up on the town website front page by the end of this week. The referendum is being held on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Polls are open from noon to 8 at your regular polling location. There is voting by absentee ballot. Absentee ballots will be available on April 28th from the town clerk's office. You must be a registered voter to participate in the referendum. There are 3 responses listed on the ballot. They are: I accept the budget, I reject the budget because it is too low, I reject the budget because it is too high. A minimum of 15% of registered voters must vote in the referendum for the results to be binding. If the budget is accepted or the minimum threshold of 15% is not met, the council's recommended budget is passed. If the threshold is met and the budget is rejected, the budget returns to the town council. They will make adjustments, and the budget they then pass is passed. There is no second referendum, and it does not continue to go to referendum until approved. How are we promoting awareness on the budget referendum? The notice of the referendum is published in the Totucket Times and in the Sound, and the budget summary is also printed in the Totucket Times. We're also using the following means to promote it: the town website, front landing page, town social media outlets, electronic road signs, which are already out and promoting it, printed corrugated plastic signs, which are already out, stationary town signs located at the center of Northford and the center of North Branford, the town manager's email newsletter, which you have to subscribe to receive, goes out monthly, last Friday of the month, and the town's Civic Ready email, text, and phone call distribution. You also need to sign up for this as well, and you can do that on the town website. We'll be sending these out in 3 message groups: 1 a week before the referendum, 1 3 days before it, and 1 the day of. Town of North Branford is proud to welcome Pop Pop's Coffee Shop to Northford Center, located at 1355 Middletown Avenue, Unit 1B. We celebrated a ribbon cutting for their soft launch on Saturday, April 12th, where I was joined by Mayor Angeloni and Assistant Town Manager Burke. Pop Pops is the dream of 2 brothers, Brandon and Ryan LaRusso, named in tribute of their late grandfather, Roy Hinkleman. Pop Pop serves up premium espresso and drip coffee drinks, as well as a variety of teas and pastry. Their homemade syrups set them apart, and they offer seasonal lattes and monthly specials. They're now open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 3. Closed Wednesdays and Sundays. You can find more information about them at www.poppopscoffeeshop.com. We're also pleased to have a ribbon cutting for the grand opening of the new location of the food pantry of North Branford at the old police station on Saturday, March 22nd at 10 a.m. We were joined by Mayor Angeloni, Councilor Diamond, Representative Vin Candelora, and Assistant Town Manager Burke, along with the Shoreline Chamber of Commerce, to welcome them at their new location. The food pantry is open Wednesdays, 4 to 7 p.m., and Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Donation boxes are available at the Edward Smith Library in the lobby of the Stanley T. Williams Community Center. You may remember that there was some news about Honeywell splitting into 3 companies, which was naturally a concern to us. We reached out to Honeywell on April 3rd. Assistant Town Manager Rory Burke and I met with Gilberto Lopez. He's the new facility director, to discuss opportunities for community involvement and ways the town can help them as one of our largest taxpayers here in town. Rory and I got a tour of the manufacturing facility, where they employ over 500 people. We're assured that the division of Honeywell into 3 companies will not have any impact on its facility here in Northford, and we agreed on some new ways that Honeywell can renew their engagement as a community partner, and hope to have some things for you to see on this pretty soon. Parks and Recreation has a touch truck event coming up on May 15th, Stanley T. Williams Community Center, from 11 to 1, with quiet time from 12:30 to 1 o'clock. And this year, the North Branford Memorial Day Parade will be taking place on the North Branford side of town, May 26th. Step off is 10 a.m. Gina Cox and Kathy Poston, in conjunction with the Veterans Service Commission, have been hard at work, and we have conducted a couple planning meetings already with Police, Public Safety, and Public Works. We're excited to announce that we've selected Kathy Poston as this year's Grand Marshal. Most of you are aware of how much Kathy does for our local veterans, and she serves as our municipal veterans representative. We're also excited to announce that we'll be receiving a flyover for this event of an F-130 provided by the 103rd Air Wing of the Connecticut Air National Guard. So I hope residents will come out and join us for this important parade and ceremony honoring those who served and sacrificed answering our nation's call. A reminder that applications for the elderly homeowner, totally disabled homeowner, and additional veterans programs are currently available in the assessor's office now through May 15th. Applicants must be 65 by December 31st, 24, or totally disabled by Social Security Administration qualifications to be qualified. If you have any questions, please call the Assessor's Office, 203-484-6013. Also a reminder that I put out a monthly email newsletter that goes out on the fourth Friday of every month. The next one will go out this Friday, April 25th. Newsletter contains news and announcements from the town. It's a great way to keep up with what we have happening in town. This is a sign-up form on the front page of my page on the town website to receive the newsletter. Also, as a reminder, we have town emergency notifications available through Civic Ready. The residents can sign up for it. You can text North Branford, no spaces, to 38276 to get emergency alerts and community notifications. You can also sign up online at northbrantfordct.gov/alerts or call 475-655-0400 to sign up via phone. Notifications go out via text, email, and phone call. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Now, do you have anything on Permanent Project Building Committee?
I do.
Okay.
A bunch of stuff. As Councilor Diamond mentioned, we did at Permanent Project Building Committee last night have a meeting trying to bring a lot of the players together on this humidity issue and temperature problems. The humidity and temperature issues persist and remain under review by the committee. Contractor's been engaged to install dampers throughout the building to regulate temperature in the individual areas, and a RAWAL valve, which is R-A-W-A-L, that's how it's spelled, is installations being done to aid in the humidity issues. For North Branford High School, the punch list and closeout is ongoing, and the glass review is complete, and the replacements of those glasses should be scheduled over the summer. North Branford Intermediate School, the majority of the base project is complete. 75% of the siding was completed during spring break, attempting to continue around daily schedule. Stanley T. Williams project, the revised list of possible projects is currently under review. Stanley T. Williams Community Center Pavilion, they're awaiting warm weather, which I'd say today is an indication of, for the slab installation. The Department of Public Works building, the bid has been opened and bids are under review. Edward Smith Library HVAC, PPBC is reviewing options and recommendations, and I was notified by OPM that the STEEP grant awards have been delayed until the end of this month, so we have no word on that application at this point. NBHS Storage, we're awaiting budget numbers and RFP approval, which are on the council's agenda later this evening. That concludes my report.
Okay. I know you sent us the report from Public Works in regards to paving and sidewalks.
Yes.
And in there was the NBIS sidewalk. Can you get that information to Permanent Project? Because that's going to be part of their project. So if you can get that information to them so they have
Yes.
that and they can make the decision as to what is going to happen with that.
Will do.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay. Resignation and appointments, seeing none. On to unfinished business. First item is proposed North Branford High School Athletic Storage Building.
So in light of obviously some difficult decisions, I'd like to remove that from the agenda item at this time. I'm going to have a board meeting on Thursday night, and if those are monies that I can recoup, $83,000 as a teacher, would like to go about that. If we want to bring it back, I've submitted all the budget, all the architectural drawings. We can come back to it, but in good faith, I don't feel like I can justify that with what's been discussed tonight. So we'll come back to you if we need to. Thank you.
We'll keep it on the agenda right now, so you can have your meeting. We'll just keep it on the agenda as unfinished business, and if you decide you're going to come back to it, you can just let us know, and we'll keep it on there for May.
And I'd like to recommend if the Permanent Project Committee could take something like that on. We know that there's a lot of monies being spent at the high school, the paving, the fencing. This is certainly something that would benefit as part of the school project because they do need storage. If that's something that they would like to take on, we would gladly endorse them doing that. And then that money would go back to us to save a teacher. So.
Well, okay, so once the board meets, you can let us, because the Permanent Project gets their charge from the town council. So if you can just get that information to us, and then we'll, from the town council, we'll do it from that point. It doesn't go automatically to the Permanent Project. Okay, so item B is going to be tabled right now, because that's related to the athletic storage building. So on to item 9, new business, discussion and action. First item, review of charter revision process.
Madam Mayor, I know you had mentioned that the council wanted to discuss the possibility of opening up the charter with regards to a couple of items, so I prepared a cover memo, which was part of your packet, which gave kind of an outline of how the charter process, charter revision process operates.
Okay, so let me just get that in the packet here. So, would you like to just kind of highlight some of the areas? This is going to go into more detail at a future council meeting and have a discussion as to how we want to proceed with charter revision. There has been a lot of talk in regards to charter revision, mainly about the budget referendum. And the way the charter reads right now is we need 15% of the registered voters to come out for the budget referendum to vote in order for the council to take any action on the budget. And so in order to do that, it would require a charter revision. And there is a process to have that done. So, Mike, could you just...
Sure. So it's essentially a 10-step process. First, the council would need to convene a charter revision commission. That would be by resolution of the town council, and it would require a 2/3 vote of the council to approve it. There are other ways for it to be done by a petition or signature, through organic means by the public, but we're specifically talking about the council forming one here. So within 30 days of the action of the council appointing the charter revision commission, the council would appoint between 5 and 15 electors to this commission. Not more than 1/3 of the members can hold another public office within the town. Not more than a bare majority shall be members of one political party. Third step, the town council needs to specify by resolution when the draft report will be submitted to the council, the date not later than 16 months from the date commission is appointed, and the Charter Revision Commission terminates upon acceptance or rejection by the town council of its final report. Step 4, the commission would hold at least 2 public hearings, and they can hold more if they wish. Public hearing number 1 must be held before the work begins, and the second public hearing or any after that must be scheduled after the draft report is completed, but before draft report is submitted. So your first one is essentially before they get started, gives an opportunity for residents to come out, voice their opinions about what they want charter revision to address. The 5th step, commission submits their draft report to the town clerk, who then transmits it to the town council. 6th step, the town council holds a minimum of 1 public hearing on the draft report. 7th step, the town council within 15 days after the last public hearing can make recommendations for changes to the draft report. If no changes are recommended, the draft report becomes final, and you go to step 8, which is after this, and if, step 9. And then if changes are recommended, the commission confers with the town council and may accept or reject in whole or in part the town council's recommendation. Step 8 is the final report being submitted to the town council within 30 days after receiving the town council's recommendations. And the ninth step is, within 15 days after receiving the final report, town council shall approve or reject the final report. If the final report is accepted, the amendments are to be published in the newspaper within 30 days of the approval. If the final report is rejected within 45 days of rejection, a petition for referendum signed by at least 10% of electors may be presented to the town council. Amendments published in newspapers within 30 days of submission of the certified petition. The final 10th step, town council by majority vote of its entire membership must decide to submit such proposed amendments to the voters at a regular election or a special election. And if special election is held, it must be approved by majority, which number equals at least 15% of electors on last completed active registry list. So of course, you can hold a special election if you wanted, specifically for the purposes of doing a vote on the referendum. Ordinarily, in these cases, it's done on the, commensurate with the day that an election is already taking place. If you do it in a municipal election, obviously, there's generally a lower turnout than for a state, federal election. So generally, I've seen them in the past, most often done on those because you get the maximum turnout for them.
So the timing of it becomes critical
Right.
as far as when you started, the length of it, so that you correspond with a regular election. Because if I read this, if it's a special election, we're going to run into the same issue that the people have now on the budget referendum, that you need 15%.
Right. And further, I think if you were to even start it now, I think your timeframe would be highly compressed, and I think unlikely to be able to do it before the municipal election that's coming up. But if you were to start it and initiate it, I would think that we would be able to do it for the November of '26 election, if that was what the council's pleasure was.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, so that was just a review of charter revision. We will have a more in-depth discussion of this at our next meeting to see what the flavor of the council is and if we want to move forward in exactly what the time. I know Lisa, is that Lisa, the town clerk? For our next meeting, could you have like a timeline date-wise for like to hit for the what it would look like if we wanted to hit the November 25 election, which I know is really, really tight, or if it's not possible.
I think that's too tight.
Okay, so then it's the November of 26, like when we have to start, like.
There's an easy answer for that, Mayor, I can address
Okay.
on this, because the tight deadline you have for this November is all the work of the commission has to be done, and the approval to submit the question by to the voters has to be at least 60 days before the election. That's the big, so that's your early September date that you have
Okay.
to really watch out for. And then within 2 weeks thereafter, you have to get all the paperwork up to the Secretary of State. You're okay for the next year because there's also a 15-month window. Once all the work is done and the question is prepared to send to the electors, the election can be within 15 months. So that always gives you enough to go to the next November election.
Okay.
I would caution you not to, as Mike talked about, I do a lot of charter revisions. Where you run into problems, in my experience, is having a special election.
Right.
Because you need 15% of the people to vote in favor of it. So if 15% show up, and it's 100% in favor, then it passes. Some people are going to vote both sides of it. So you have to get such big percentages. We've had these special elections where virtually no one shows up because people don't understand, nor do they care to understand. And you just spend an awful lot of time and money for something where no one comes out and vote, and it's defeated because of that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, one of the issues that is very prevalent right now is getting 15% to show up for the budget referendum. So if we're going to tell them to hold a special election, you need to have 15% come out, and not only 15%, but that full 15% has to vote in favor of whatever the changes are.
Correct.
So that right there, in my mind, kind of defeats the purpose of charter revision. If that's the main purpose, is to get rid of the 15%. is not to have a special election.
Right. And then you have to think about, you're going to spend some time coming up with the questions. You, as the council, can suggest questions to the commission that they have to address those questions. You know, they don't have to be limited by those questions. They can look
Right.
at the entire charter and do anything they see fit,
Right.
present it back, and they have the ultimate say in that, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, we need to just table right now because that's executive session.
You take that out of order. You should suspend your rules to take that out of order to put it after executive session.
Oh, okay.
Is there a motion for that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to move item 9B, approval of collective bargaining agreement with Public Works contract with Teamsters number 443, to follow after our executive session.
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Abelson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next item is contingency appropriations.
We have none.
Oh, there's none,
Yep.
okay. Then next item is financial report.
Madam Mayor, financial report you have in front of you for March 31st. Again, focusing on the key topics that are the most important. Tax collection line, again, 100% of budget this year, exceeding 98.7% last year. On the overall revenue, 91.8% collected this year compared to 90.9%, which is also favorable. On the expense side of the house, it appears to be about 1% ahead of time again, but just a reminder that we've been encouraging the use of encumbrances and locking more money up in POs. So none of the departments, aside from the insurance that we've known about for the majority of the year, we'll address that at the May meeting and cover money with that. Aside from that, the report is unremarkable.
Okay. All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is finalizing budget 2025-26. The first is ratification of town council recommended budget 2025-26. That's the advisory question. So it's the suggested motion.
Yep, this one?
Yes. And no, this is, you have to.
Then I can go through each
You
item.
have to read those on the back.
All right. Be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council hereby forwards the proposed operating budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year as amended to the budget referendum at the attached appropriation levels, and be it hereby further resolved that the treasurer, finance director is authorized to make any mathematical adjustments that may be required to balance the budget, including town government operations, $22,643,578. Board of Education, $34,101,724. Capital improvements, $579,062. Debt service, $6,321,474. Fund balance for capital, $1,399,000. Total appropriations, non-tax revenue, total appropriations, $65,044,838. State grants for education, $7,077,214. Fund balance applied, $750,000. Fund balance capital appropriation, $1,399,000. Local elderly tax credit, -140,000. Amount should be raised by taxes, $51,357,794, which is.
Million.
I'm sorry, my apologies. I meant to say that, $51,357,794. Assuming a 98.6 collection rate. Total revenues, $65,044,838.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palicio. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The next is approval of advisory budget referendum question.
here? All right, in accordance with section C8-5 of the Charter of the Town of North Branford, the Town Council hereby approves the following advisory referendum question for FY 25-26 budget. Shall the Town Council recommend budget of $65,044,838, which will require a mill rate of 27.84 mills, be adopted?
Second? Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Palladino. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is citizen statements and petitions. Just a reminder, please state your name, address, and it is a 3-minute.
Liz Potter, Middletown Avenue, Northford, Connecticut. I'm so old, I went to the last charter revision. It was a disaster. Roger Monk was trying to change things. First of all, people have to realize, I don't know who's asking for it, but guess what? Everything in that charter is now on the table if you open it up. Be careful what you ask for, because you may not keep some stuff you might like in the charter. It opens a can of worms. What's the cost to the town? I mean, I'm sure the lawyer fees are going to increase because he's got to look at everything. Your time is going to get doubled. You might have to go back to 2 meetings a month while this is on that strict timeline. I just don't understand. The people asking for it, like you've stated, they don't like the fact that the 15%. But again, and especially with money being so tight, can we stand the expense of doing it? Can you put up the extra time of doing it? And what will they gain? Because like I say, I sat through the other one, quite a bit of give and take, and nothing was accomplished. I'd hate to see that happen again, but I predict it will. And I don't like to talk like that, but I see it. So the people who are asking, the questions you have to ask them at your next meeting is, are you willing to look at everything in that charter and not give up more that's already in there that might be protecting you for certain things? I don't know what's in there. I don't need to know. You guys do a good job without it. But I really feel it was a can of worms. It was a waste of the council's time. It was a lot of hard-fought information, and nothing was accomplished. I sure hope we don't repeat history. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen statements?
Amy Conroy, 67 Caputo Road, right here in North Branford. I just want to share that it's disturbing to see that the town council has reduced the budget for the Board of Education. When you look at the localing towns, Guilford is 74.4 million, Branford 69 million, Madison 63 million, and we're looking at a reduction, if I'm getting my numbers right, of 1.8 million. That's a substantial cut. And with the cost of business, everything's going up. How are we supposed to be able to have a strong education system with those cuts? It's absolutely shameful. The other thing that I would like to mention is this forensic audit. It seems kind of like a witch hunt if we don't know exactly what we're targeting and being selective. That's $75,000 that could go towards education or other programs. The other thing that I was a little bit curious on is the Public Works absorbing the cost of a lot of the different building budgets. Is their budget going to be able to account for those costs that we're transferring over to them?
Yes. We just took it out of the different departments, so it wasn't an increase in the budget. It was already in library, central services, park and rec. We took what was in their budget and it's going over to Public Works, and Public Works already does the work, most of that work. So yes, we will be able to account for it.
Do you have an idea what the forensic audit would be targeted at?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Marcia Onofrio, Fox Hill Drive. Yes, I'm on the Board of Ed, but I'm speaking as a citizen. What I see happening year after year is the majority party goes behind closed doors, makes all the decisions of what's going to happen with the budget, courteous enough to the minority party to tell them what you're doing. That's not how it's supposed to happen. There was a workshop here run by your attorney who said these things are supposed to happen in public. You don't come in with a piece of paper and say, these are the cuts we decided upon, you have no say, which you do every year. And just for the record, I hope you're happy, because I just did my taxes. And based upon the mill rate that the town manager proposed as to what you did, my taxes will only be a difference of $38 a month. So by decimating a school system, you're saving me $38 a month. Hope it works for you.
Just to clarify that all of the motions made tonight were discussed in public at our budget workshops on April 8th and April 10th, and all council members were here except those that were on vacation. So those were not decided in our caucus last night. Those were all things that we talked about in public in our workshops. So we did exactly as we have done on other years, and they were all public, and you can watch them on our meetings. Are there any other public comments?
Hi, Kathy Downs, no relation, 67 Gale Drive in Northford.
I told you to wait in the car.
This is my first meeting, pretty eye-opening. Looking at the budget, I see that, so the library is like, just over $1 million. $850,000 of that roughly is for staffing, and we have 2 libraries. Has any thought been given to closing a library and only having one?
Yes.
And, I know we're talking about decreasing Sunday hours, but do we need 2 libraries, really?
There's usership that supports that they're used, and we are a town that is, they were built, and because the town is kind of spread amongst 2 entities, the village of Northford and the town of North Branford, so something to consider in the future. If we don't feel like the usership is proper and that it doesn't suffice the cost, maybe we move it to 1, or at some point in the future, maybe we have 1 building that suffices in the middle of the town that's large enough. It's hard to say. It's not how I would have planned it, but it was well before I was born that it was kind of set up that way.
And does the library provide data to the council on utilization?
They did.
Yes.
During our budget workshops.
And what does that look like over the last several years?
You can actually contact the library director, and she'd be happy to give that information to you. We don't have it handy with us here right now, but the library director, Lauren Davis, is here, and she would be happy to give that information to you.
Okay. And just for clarification regarding the money that was spent on the pavilion in front of Stanley T, where did that money come from again?
Came from ARPA funds. So those were funds that were meant to be utilized for projects like that. It was not money that North Branford had within our budget. It was provided by federal funding, and it was to kind of recuperate community development.
And was there no way to then use those funds for anything for education or for the schools?
Use those funds for something for education, but it can't go into the operating budget as far as I understood.
Correct. The Board of Education did receive ARPA funding on certain projects that they had requested on there, and they also received their own ARPA funding that was separate just for the Board of Education. That did not come through the town.
Okay.
I wish we had more of it. We'd love more.
Sure.
Free money from the government. We don't like it more.
Well, yeah, I'd just like to also echo, what the superintendent, stated in terms of really our education system is our billboard for our town. And, we have this beautiful new building and then also a wonderful police department. And to then think that we're not going to have these potentially different, programs in the school for students and people in the community to take advantage of is really shameful, and it's, really concerning. It's, dressing it all up and making it look good, but then there's no substance to it, so, you know, that's a concern.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, need a motion to go into executive session under CGS 1-200, strategy or negotiations with respect to the collective bargaining. And we are going to include the two town attorneys, Fran Marola, Director of Public Works, Dan Silentano, Assistant Director, Town Manager, and Treasurer of Finance, Anthony Esposito.
Motion is stipulated, if I'm good.
Assistant Town Manager too, if you could.
We'll take a 5-minute break.
Oh, you got it.
Wait. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Jeff, did you have Rory?